In this one, we're going to be checking out Wargames Atlantic. I'm going to start again. Wargames Atlantic. Hello, everybody. Nah. Hello everybody and welcome to another painting video with myself, John. In this one we're going to be checking out Wargames Atlantic Classic Lizardman, but I decided to go a little bit of a twist on this guy. The video is going to be kind of short because it's very concise and to the point. I just wanted to show an example of what you can do to a miniature like this to spice it up a little bit and make it fit into maybe a bit more of a sci-fi setting. So yeah, there's plenty of options in the kit to really spruce them up a little bit, but going beyond that and applying some of the sprucing up into the paint job as well. So yeah, I hope you're going to enjoy this one. So I also want to tackle a couple of comments that I've seen as well. Well, not tackle, I basically respond to a couple of comments I've had in a couple of previous videos, particularly about this thing behind me here, this half track. If you want to know about this half track, go to North Coast RC on YouTube and check out the video that I've done on that channel where I talk about what parts were used in it and how the build process was put together and a little bit of running footage as well. It's just a little side hobby just to muck around with on top of the tanks and stuff that are up there as well. Everybody has to have more than one hobby. Anyway, without further ado, let's go over to the painting desk and see what we get up to. So to begin with on our Lizardman, can I just say I love the fact that a fantasy box or a box of fantasy miniatures lets you do this sort of layout with a miniature. I think this is hilarious. So we'll get on with our theme here, which I'm pretty sure I explained in the intro, but if I didn't, we're going to start by making the skin quite dull. So we're going to be initially going with Basilicanum Grey, our contrast paint. The way this has been primed currently is using Chaos Black and then has been dusted, quite liberally dusted, with Wraithbone. So that's the two sprays that I've used here. That gives me enough shading and enough high areas to work with. So we're going to start with Basilicanum Grey for the skin. This is going to be more of a set the tone sort of color. We're going to be going using this as basically part of the base coat for more or less everything. Plus it helps to tighten up some shading. So let's just apply this all over the miniature. It's going to take him to be quite dull, but if I feel like it, I can just add a little bit of water to my brush and we can start to thin it out and move it around a little bit more. So I want to try and get the whole miniature done in one pass, just to make sure that it's got everything it needs. And we'll take it up over the gas mask as well. Just do the whole thing. With our Basilicanum Grey now dry, you can see the sort of shading that we've been getting here from that, and it just adds a little bit more depth to the miniature. It just darkens some of the shading and just really makes them look a bit more interesting. So the next thing I want to work on is the skin, and the skin we're gonna stick with being quite dull because I have a plan, sorta. And we're going to be using Creed Camo for this one, so another contrast paint just for the skin. Now this is quite a heavy contrast paint, so what I'm planning to do is put some onto my palette here, and then just with a little bit of water, just start to thin it out a little bit, because we don't want to ruin all the shading that we've just achieved. So carefully, not worried about these straps and stuff across his legs, or the leather work so much, and we're just going to start tinting this pre-shaded skin down with our Creed Camo, and we will see the sort of results that we're going to get from that. The idea here is to keep him nice and dull because I want to decorate him with some cool sort of, maybe a bit of body paint, or you know, sort of bright colorations of different pieces of his equipment that he's got on. And it's just to, I'm trying to aim for like an Underhive or an Undercity sort of mutated kind of odd person, not just a Lizardman per se out of the box. I want them to look different. I want them to look interesting, and hopefully it's a good interesting. You know, it's not just a bad sort of "what are you doing, John?" interesting, but actually something that would be worth giving a go. Plus, it's an opportunity to play with some Wargames Atlantic miniatures, which I don't really do very much of on my day-to-day. So when I seen these popping into the list of miniatures available to me, I thought, yeah, screw it, let's go for it. Let's see what happens. So again, just carefully work my way over the skin here. I was going to dry brush the skin, but with the way that the Basilicanum Grey has dried, I'm quite happy to not feel like I need to do that. So let's just keep on going here. Try and avoid some of this leather work if we can, because I haven't quite decided if I want to do contrast paint for the leather or just traditional paints. I reckon traditional paints for this is probably going to be the better way to do it. So with the Creed Camo now dry, we can see that we have quite a dull, deep looking green. It's quite interesting looking, but that's not really the focus of what I really want the center of the miniature to look like. So we're going to be going over a few steps now using some more contrast paints. So for his leather work, so like the strap across his shoulder, the cloth part of the gas mask that he has on, and any straps and bags, and the sheath for the blade that he's carrying on his back, all that leather work is going to go onto fur. After that, we're going to take some Black Templar, and the Black Templar is going to be for his gun, for the claws on his feet, and if there's any little claws or anything like that up here on his hands. I don't really think so. We can also do the scales, or as many scales as we can reach. We're going to do them in Black Templar as well, including the lenses for the gas mask too. And finally, we're going to go with Talisar Blue, which is going to be applied just to his loincloth. So once all that's done, we'll come back, and that will be the end of our contrast paint use, and we can get onto some traditional paints. Alright, so with all our contrasts now dry, we can have a look at how the miniature is looking. And the blue is working alright, ties nicely with the little bit on the end of his blade there. And everything else is sitting quite nicely. I have to keep saying I absolutely adore Gorgrunta fur for a quick leather. It really does just sit real nice, and I quite enjoy it. Now we're going to move on to a real quick dry brushing step. For that, we're going to be using Necron Compound, and we're going to be dry brushing our gun. So just quickly get my dry brush in here. I'm going to make everyone shout at me because I'm wiping my brush on the table on my cutting mat. People hate me doing that. That's fine. Cool. I didn't have any tissue paper close to hand, so just make sure that's there. And then what we're just going to be doing is real quick, a bit more off the brush than that, real quick, bring our weapon up to a nice silvery sort of finish. Looks alright. Again, we don't want to spend too much time on this because we're always trying to aim for something quick. A little bit behind there as well. And we're going to do the filter on the gas mask as well. Just a little bit around that front edge. You can see me having to manipulate the model all over the place because I'm left-handed and weird. So a little bit down on that piece there. And there as well. Do a bit more on the gun. I think that's fine. Right. Let my dry brush wash off. Next one, we're going to be moving on to another metallic. For this one, we're going to be using Lead Belcher. So Lead Belcher is going to be for the metallic details, like the buckle on the belt on his shoulder, and I think a little bit of a cross guard or a little bit of a hand guard on the blade. So not too much to think about here. A little bit too much paint on the brush. Get rid of that. Just real quick paint that in. And what we'll do later is give that a little bit of a null oil wash just to bring it back down again. Shade it in, because again, it's not really the primary focus of the detail work. You'll see what I mean shortly, what I want to be doing. Again, just on this buckle or up here.
like that. And then I think as well, just because we have the paint out, we'll do the outermost ring of the eyes of the gas mask. Again, nothing too serious. I think I've maybe got a bit of, yeah, I've put a bit of paint onto the mask. That's a bit annoying. That's all right. Because the detail there shallows out really significantly just around the bottom of the mask there. So if you're doing one of these yourselves, just be a little more careful around that part of the head. I wonder if we could remove that without wrecking everything we've done. Just take my clean brush and see if I can move that. Bit of a wipe. That's alright, we'll maybe fix that later on there. So, with that done, we're going to let that dry, and then afterwards, we're going to get into what I want to do to make this guy look kind of like a gang fighter, or, you know, he'll have some symbols and maybe a bit of body paint and stuff like that, but we're going to let this settle. I'm probably going to fix this little error here below that eye, and then we'll come back and we'll start making this guy really pop. So what I've done off camera here is I've given all the metallic parts, the gun, and I think a little bit on the top of the sword here, and on the metal parts, just a little bit of non-oil just to darken them down a little bit, just to cam our dry brushing step. So with all of that done, we have a fairly decent looking guy. I think, you know, regular infantry guy for, you know, whatever game you feel like putting these models into. This is where you could stop. You have enough color, you have enough contrast, a bit of basing on there, he's going to look pretty good. But I want to take him just a little bit further. So at this point, if you're looking for just basic infantry, here's where you stop. However, I want to continue on because I want to push that little narrative of him being like an Underhive ganger or a mutant of some sort rather than a Lizardman. So what I want to do is add a bit of flair. So what I've got just off camera here is a range of bright colors that I want to use. So we have first Vallejo Magenta Fluo, so a fluorescent pink. I then have the Citadel Edge Baharoth Blue and Citadel Layer Moot Green. And I want to use these to make sort of tribal body paint patterns and stuff like that onto him as well, just to graffiti him up a little bit, so to speak, and make him look, you know, a little different, a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to start with the pink. So we're going to need to shake this up. I've not used this fluorescent paint in a long time. In fact, it wouldn't be since the Neo Mechanica painting video came out. I can't even remember, that was what, 2020? So I haven't really used this paint since then. But what I'm wanting to do is just make little tribal markings and bits and bobs like that. So we're going to make sure this is quite thin, and what I want to do is just draw little patterns. So maybe a little triangle up here. Now the pink is definitely going to need a couple of layers to make it stand out, or it might be more suitable just to make dots with, because it'll sit a little heavier in those areas. So what I'm going to do is just take these three colors and just do some interesting stuff, make him look a little bit different. It's a little hard to describe because I'm really just flying off the wall here and not sure what I have planned. So there's little ridges on his tail there, on that sort of like carapace. I think I'll color those in. But I want it to look rough. I want it to look like they've just slathered on, or, you know, even finger painted on all these little markings and whatever. So it's just going to be a matter of taking my three colors of choice and just going around the miniature and just seeing what I can come up with. So I'm going to call this guy finished. I haven't sorted my background or anything like that because I just want to have a look at him just as he is, to be honest. So what I've done is use the 3 colors that we mentioned previously and just done some squiggly patterns here and there. Looks like a little bit of graffiti on his mask. Painted up the quills in the green and the blue on the back of his head and the big one down his back, and just added some patterns and, you know, just different shapes and symbols all over him. Makes him look like he's done a little bit of body paint before going into battle or something like that. You know, he's a bit of a ganger, he's a bit of an Underhive guy, pretty serious with his AK 40,000, which I wanted to say that for the entire video and held off from it. But yeah, I like this guy. He's got a lot of charm about him, and it's just, this video, as quick as it was just more of a demonstration of how you take something that's a little more fantasy based and you can very quickly turn it into something a little different, a little quirky, and just showing a few simple steps on how to actually do something like a piece of basic infantry and still add a little stamp of individuality about that miniature as well, without a huge amount of time. I would say in about an hour or a couple of hours you could have a squad of these, you know, maybe 10 of them done without too much effort. And doing all the little random patterns and stuff is very rewarding. It's very interesting to do. It doesn't feel like a chore. Maybe over 10 miniatures it would, but that's for you guys to figure out, or let me know in the comments if you want. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and until next time.